What's the film going to be all about?
It's a mystery to me. Cheers.
In the town where I was born.
By 1967, the Beatles' creative output was changing. The grind of touring had been jettisoned in favour of audacious musical experimentation in the studio. This also emboldened them visually and fed into their next screen project, one entirely funded and produced by them alone. It's commonly agreed that Magical Mystery Tour was Paul McCartney's idea, initially not extending much beyond the coach trip holiday concept.
When a man buys a ticket for a Magical Mystery Tour, he knows what to expect. We guarantee him the trip of a lifetime.
Read the book.
It's a series of loose, heavily improvised sketches, driven as ever by the music. All four of the band are on board, and while Ringo is officially credited as the cinematographer, McCartney clearly called most of the shots. He even took off solo to France to film Fool on the Hill. The hour-long, wildly uneven results were met with widespread bafflement, even hostility at the time. It didn't help that the BBC TV premiere on Boxing Day 1967 transmitted its vivid colours in black and white. In retrospect, the film's reputation has been to some extent reclaimed. There's still much to admire in the Beatles' unfiltered, go-for-broke attitude. It's basically part avant-garde project, part send-up of traditional British light entertainment, somehow stuck together by their own foibles and fantasies. And if nothing else, it's the only place to find a performance of I Am the Walrus. So extreme had been public demand in the mid-60s that even Beatles products with no actual Beatles involved did well.
Hollywood at last. Keep your eyes on me, chaps. I'm here to be discovered.
American television's animated series was voiced by actors with, let's say, a unique take on the real Fab Four vocals. So, when approached by two of the series' producers for a feature-length animated film, the Beatles weren't thrilled. Finally, realizing it would fulfill their 3-movie contract with a minimum of personal effort, they agreed, providing 4 original songs to go alongside their earlier hits. Much to their own surprise, Yellow Submarine, directed by Canadian animator George Dunning, was a delight. Far from merely having the kids' appeal of most popular cartoons of the time, German designer Heinz Edelmann's animation draws on the openly psychedelic-inspired music of the Sgt. Pepper era, and the tale of the Beatles travelling to help Pepperland under attack from the Blue Meanies is rendered with trippy visuals to match. It's a treasure trove for adult fans, able to spot multiple references to song lyrics and other Beatles memorabilia.
This place reminds me of Blackburn, Lancashire.
Oh boy.
There are sophisticated nods to pop culture, even pop art. The innovative rotoscope animation, tracing over live-action footage, in Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds, used Hollywood musical clips. The Beatles were so impressed that they even contributed a short cameo to the finale.
Catchy tune, that. I can't seem to get it out of my head.
Both Magical Mystery Tour and Yellow Submarine doubled down on the vanguard invention of the earlier Richard Lester films. Even when the Beatles themselves didn't pioneer something, their ubiquity and universal appeal thrust it into the mainstream.
If you look to your left, ladies and gentlemen, the view is not very inspiring.
The psychedelic landscapes here,
But if you look to your right,
actually used outtakes from Stanley Kubrick's Dr. Strangelove. And soon after, you can see similarly phantasmagorical visuals in the Monkey's own feature, Head, as well as Kubrick's own 2001: A Space Odyssey. As the Beatles were influenced by the zany antics of the Goons, so too does their surreal humour feel a direct forerunner to numerous Monty Python sketches and movie sequences.
Don't stand there, Corbin!
From taking down ludicrous authority figures
It's only a wafer thin.
to the gross-out food gag of Mr. Creosote.
I can hardly get my breath.
And Yellow Submarine's animation, though not exactly the same as Terry Gilliam's cut-out Python work, definitely shares its anarchic spirit. Modern animators acclaim the film's ongoing influence, and homages and spoofs still pop up regularly even today.
Hello, Dewey.
Welcome to your LSD trip.
The Beatles. Rehearsing, recording, rapping, relaxing.
The last official Beatles film, Let It Be, a documentary of the band writing and recording what would be their final album, has long been considered the worst. In fact, it was never released on Blu-ray, hence the degraded image quality here. In cinematic terms, it also lacks their previous films' originality, because for the first time, the Beatles seem to be following trends rather than setting their own. The fly-on-the-wall documentary depicting an artist off stage, or flexing their creativity, had already been done, and by their peers. Bob Dylan toying with the press, his acolytes, and perhaps even director D.A. Pennebaker himself in Don't Look Back.
What is your real message?
My real message? Keep a good head and always carry a light bulb.
And Jean-Luc Godard using the Rolling Stones for his own agitprop filmmaking agenda in 1+1, later recut and retitled Sympathy for the Devil. Both these films have a real sense of direction, of something being crafted. Let It Be too often feels like director Michael Lindsay Hogg's edit struggles amid the interband toil and tensions.
Okay, well, I don't mind. I'll play, whatever you want me to play. Or I won't play at all if you don't want me to play. No, whatever it is that will please you, I'll do it.
Oh, please believe me, I'd hate to miss the train.
The footage of their final ever live performance is an essential slice of history. But otherwise, the film is frustratingly distant, dour and malformed compared to the sharp, vibrant portraits in the earlier features.
Mayor of your ball, sir. It gives me great pleasure.
Quick!
If the Beatles were soon finished after Let It Be, the individual band members weren't necessarily done with film. John Lennon had already tried his hand at a dramatic role as an ill-fated soldier in Richard Lester's self-aware anti-war satire How I Won the War.
Just what is our work, Dad?
Ringo made the most concerted effort at his own on-screen career, mainly in comedies, whether opposite Peter Sellers or some ropey-looking dinosaurs. Paul stuck to playing himself in a bizarre one-off mix of fantasy and 80s reworkings of former hits. All these efforts seem to back up McCartney's 1964 claims that the Beatles simply weren't very good actors. And indeed, George Harrison went on to easily have the biggest movie-making impact of them all, from behind the camera. When Monty Python's biblical spoof Life of Brian lost its funding at the last minute, Harrison swooped in to fund the whole project. His company, Handmade Films, went on to make several other British classics, including With Nail and I and Mona Lisa. But if you do want to see George on screen, he's here in Life of Brian as a glorified extra.
So the stories of the theft, they're not true also?
And here, disguised as an interviewer in Python member Eric Idle's Fab 4 spoof The Ruttles, which has a lot of fun sending up Beatles lore, fiction and non-fiction. In fact, as you'd expect from a band this seminal, there have been many Beatles-related screen appearances. From spoofs to numerous documentaries.
A lot of the time we were going through the motions, and we all started to get pretty fed up.
From multiple biopics to some ideas that seem as if they could have only emerged from a bad acid trip. which is why Peter Jackson's Get Back is such a revelation.
A live show.
Using some 57 hours of footage from the Let It Be filming, as well as over 150 hours of audio, Jackson's state-of-the-art technology has revitalized the images and, crucially, demixed the sound, splitting up audio tracks to allow them to be clearly heard.
The best bit of us, always has been and always will be, is when we're backs against the wall.
It's a long, winding, painstaking project, employing very little of the Let It Be documentary footage, though in part also vindicating Lindsay Hogg's team's efforts, and eventually delivered as a 3-part, close to 8-hour epic.
It's going to be such a comical thing, like in 50 years' time. They broke up because Yoko sat on an ember.
The results not only help dispel long-running myths about the destructive nature of these recording sessions.
The documentary is just grinding to a halt.
Grinding to a halt, I think it's taking off.
Here we go.
But also clearly throw the focus back onto the heart of the Beatles' appeal.
So, cats and kittens, what are we going to do?
Their band of brothers camaraderie in all its quick-witted charm, family-like squabbles, and almost telepathic creativity. And ultimately, their magical music. It's a fitting companion piece to the Beatles' other enduring movies, and another chance to see the greatest band in history thrillingly alive on screen again.
Yeah! Get back, George!
Fabulous, definitely. Fantastic.
Nice to have something for free in this country at the moment, isn't it?
Is it their new record? Oh, great. I'm all in favour of it.